occupied state of mind, aiming over the bridge. Talk to us.
All right, here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Monday afternoon, another afternoon edition of KFTV Live, CP the Franchise in the building. All my diehard Knicks fans around the world, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel, the number one show for the fans by the fans. This is the home for you. The Knicks go 1-2 on their weekly campaign. And, hey, man, right now, after 6 games, they are 3-3 in the East. We are going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, as well as preview their upcoming matchups this week. The Knicks embark on what last night was the first of a 7-game homestand, the longest homestand in franchise history. So let's get into it. We'll talk about our player of the week. We'll talk about Josh Hart's injury revelation, what that means for the Knicks going forward. So hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. We here. Call us up in the KFTV Discord as well. All right, man. Salute to the family. CP the Franchise in the building. See my franchise channel members in the chat. Salute to you guys. Hope everybody's doing well on this Monday on the lunchtime grind. I see Lash in the building. Lash, what's good? Joey Keys, Mr. Duns, Gio, I see you. Stevie Nicks, Daniel Bosa, Jor, got your open gaming. Salute to you guys. All right, man. 1-2 on the campaign. And what is this week's theme? I think this week's theme was pressure busting pipes, man. Pressure busting pipes. The Knicks did not fare too well in Milwaukee in what was very much a statement type of game against the Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks in the backdrop of the Giannis trade demands, or what he says weren't trade demands, whatever the case was. He certainly let his presence be felt in that game when he dominated the Knicks in the second half, and the Knicks would ultimately lose to the Bucks in Milwaukee. And then they head to Chicago on that Friday night, Halloween, in that in-season cup, or NBA Cup, I was going to say in-season tournament, NBA Cup matchup, and get the doors blown off. 135-125 to the Chicago Bulls. And then they would bounce back against the Bulls in the second part of the home and home, getting revenge at the Garden. And so, look, 3-3 on the campaign. We had a lot of what I thought was a lot of overreacting to the Knicks losing. They're going to lose games, folks. There's going to be growing pains along the journey, and it's also early. So all those things are true. They've looked good in some respects. We'll talk about it. They've looked bad in some respects, and we will talk about it. The good thing is they have plenty of time to right the ship. Personally, I don't mind the adversity that they're going through right now, whether it's the injuries or the inconsistent chemistry. Now is the time to go through that. What you want to see this team do is improve as the season goes on, get better, and get into their groove, and ultimately get to the playoffs healthy, and then we take it from there. That's the next season. So we're taking this thing in season. Stephon Marbury, friend of the program, said it that way, right? Preseason, season, postseason. 3 different seasons. So we got to hang on for the ride. Obviously, last season's expectations, last season's bar has us overreacting one way to the next. One win has us this way, one loss has us that way. It's just the nature of the game. You know, one fan was telling me on Twitter, they say, CP, I appreciate you staying positive during this time. Well, when you do this for 9-10 years in a row, you're kind of used to the ebbs and flows of the takes throughout the season. You're kind of just used to it. But by and large, we just got to keep it even keel, because despite the doom and gloom around the losses, I still think there are some wins to take away, even from this week. And where we want to start, hey, let's start with the captain, Jalen Brunson. This week's KFTV Player of the Week. Last 3 games, Captain Clutch averaging 32 points per game, 3.7 rebounds per game, 4.3 assists, shooting 50% from the field, 33% from 3, 76% from charity stripe, and 1.3 steals. So Jalen Brunson is picking up where he left off. I think Cap looks absolutely sensational. And when the Knicks have needed his offensive brilliance, especially when there's been up and downs with Karl Anthony Towns and, other players looking to get into the swing, especially off the bench. Jalen Brunson's doing his part. And Jalen Brunson is absolutely doing his part, and that is getting the Knicks much-needed, timely buckets. And that's another thing that has been pretty interesting is that, you have some fans that are saying, despite Brunson's brilliance in play, for some fans, it's still not good enough. And my thing is, this is our all-star player. This is the best player on the team. And his job is to deliver for this team, especially when they get into these ruts. And especially when you know that defensively, he has his warts. So if you know he's liable to give up points on the other side, despite his efforts and his smarts, he's going to give it back to you offensively. And I thought Jalen Brunson was brilliant in that home game against the Bulls on Sunday night. He had 19 points in the first quarter, 31 points to lead all scorers. I thought his ball movement, despite only 3 assists in that game, I thought his ball movement and getting guys involved was good. He had 2 steals in this game as well against the Bulls. As we saw here, a leading to transition offense. So I've liked Jalen Brunson's floor game, especially over the course of the week. I'm not really sure what the angst is or what some of the naysayers are saying here. Cap is doing what Cap is supposed to do. Go out there, dominate. Oh, and by the way, his teammates are following suit. His teammates are absolutely following suit. And one to suggest, look, obviously Jalen Brunson, by the numbers, the magnitude of the numbers, deserves his accolades, and rightfully so. But let's not sleep on Mikal Bridges, ladies and gentlemen. Because Mikal Bridges has been on fire so far through these 6 games and this week as well. But through the 6 games, 17.5 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 1.2 steals, and 0.7 blocks. Shooting 55% from the field, 46.9% from 3 on 5.3 attempts, and 87.5 from the charity stripe. These are the All-Star campaign numbers. And with these numbers, this is like fringe bench player for the All-Star. But if he maintains this, I like his chances. And I think defensively, he's been solid. We're seeing Mikal Bridges initiate more offense. He's been aggressive. He's going to the hole a lot more. Definitely going to the hole a lot more. And in the win against the Bulls, you saw some much-needed leadership from Mikal Bridges. Mike Brown said it in his press conference. He talked about playing with next play speed. And on that play early in the game, it was only Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson against 4 or 5 Bulls on the fast break, in which the Bulls scored. Mike Brown calls timeout, and Mikal Bridges, he airs out OG, he airs out Mitch, and he airs out Karl Anthony Towns. So I thought that was a great job by him, man. He's really looking more and more comfortable with this group. And now emerging as a leader. That's what you want to see. So overall, I love his attack. And Mikal Bridges is leading with his efficiency, good ball movement, a team-high 9 assists in the win against the Bulls. So that's what you want to see. Because on the flip side, while Karl Anthony Towns is finding his way in this offense, I thought he had a much, much better showing in the Bulls, in the win against the Bulls on Sunday. Mikal's been consistent. Mikal has been bringing it, man. So I thought, obviously Brunson being the player of the week, that was a great positive. But Mikal Bridges was also a positive for the Knicks this week as well. And he continues to shine in this offense. So overall, great job by Mikal Bridges this week. Now, another one of the things that, you kind of track over the course of the season just based on what Mike Brown is preaching First off, it's the threes. And we're getting a lot of them. We're getting a heavy dosage. Knicks damn near shot 50% from three last night in their Sunday night in their win against the Bulls. And if you take a look at it, right now, they are third in the NBA in three-point attempts. 44.3 three-point attempts per game. And they're second right now in makes at 16. Right now in percentage, they are 13th in percentage. Last year, they were, where were they? In attempts, they were 27th. They were 27th last year in attempts at 34 per game. So they're up in their attempts by 10 per game so far in this early stretch of the season. Last year in makes, they were 24th at 12.6. Right now, they're at 16. So Mike Brown wants the threes. They're getting it. Some of you don't like that as it kind of, that shot profile. We've seen it doom some of these teams like the Celtics. We've seen where you live by the three, you die by the three. So some nights like Sunday night in their win against the Bulls, it looks fantastic. And other nights it could be a brick fest. Especially when, if their shots aren't full, if their defense isn't on point, then it can look pretty bad. It can look pretty bad, man. So, but I still do think that shot profile in getting those threes up, to me, with a team who, I mean, let's be honest, the Knicks are never going to be a dominant defensive team. I don't think they're ever going to be a top 5 team. So, if they can be at least a little better than average, we're talking 10. Can you be 10? If you can get there, then offensively, they've got to be really strong to overcome the defense and the defensive weaknesses, right? You have 2 weaknesses in your starters. You're not the most athletic team. So, to me, with the three-point shot, if you're going to be in a situation where you're giving up points, you got to be able to clap back in some respects. And the Knicks do have the guys to get that done. When you think about Brunson, OG shooting the 3-ball well, Mikal Bridges shooting the 3-ball well, you have Deuce potentially, you have Clarkson potentially, Karl Anthony Towns, obviously you want him taking the threes. So I'm not sure I'm really all that mad with the diet. To me, it's something that it's just going to be a give and take. But in terms of their overall chances, it'll benefit them because I don't see them becoming this elite defensive team to overcome that. So to everybody in the chat once again, Jay Corbin, 9340. Shout out to Jay Corbin. Shout out to Jay from PR, Stevie Nicks. Salute to you guys. Knicks taking on the Wizards tonight on a back-to-back at the Garden. All right, so those are some of the good things. Right now, Knicks ranked 11th in offense. They're ranked right now 11th in offense, and let's see where they are in pace. Let's see where the pace is at right now. They're 24th in pace. All right, so they are 24th in pace right now. And that's another thing. Another topic of discussion this week was, is the personnel good enough to match what Mike Brown wants? Speed, pace. Is the personnel good enough to do that? And my answer had been, throughout this offseason when Mike Brown was here and looking at this roster, they're not going to be the Kings. I don't expect them to be top 5 in pace. They're not the Kings. But he has to find the proper balance to make sure that the scheme the concepts that they're running and the pace at which they're running is matched up by the personnel that they have. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be Indy 500 on one end and give it right back on the defensive end, then there's got to be some sort of middle ground. And that is what this season is for. Coming to a consensus on their offensive identity. Now, you know Cap, he's good. It don't matter, no matter what it is. Cap is going to dominate. But for Karl Anthony Towns, there's got to be a give and take here. There's got to be a dance with him and Mike Brown. Nevertheless, they're still 11th in the league. They dropped 128 points last night on the Bulls. The ball movement has been consistent. Their cutting has been good. They're generating 1.5 points per possession off of their cuts. So their cutting hasn't good. So, they're passing the ball well. They're generating good looks. All while being an offense that's a work in progress. So I think that's why I would be encouraged with where things are through these 6 games and through this week. I'd be encouraged by that. Stevie Nicks, they stop hustling when the shots aren't falling. Great point. And that is what led me to my point on last night's postgame show. If you guys tapped in, to me, one of the most underrated stats of that night, and there was a ton of stats and a ton of numbers that the Knicks generated that were on the positive side, but one of the most underrated was the 24 fast break points. Their transition game was on the money last night, both off of live rebounds and off of the steals. And to me, that is the best insurance that you can have against tough shooting nights. Maintaining your aggressiveness defensively to generate easy buckets in transition. And they did a good job of that. And it also plays into Mike Brown's philosophy of playing fast. So when those shots go up, Karl Anthony Towns, 15 rebounds. He did an excellent job going into this. Touchdown strikes to OG. Touchdown strikes to Josh Hart in transition. Now, it just so happened that in their win against the Bulls, the threes were falling and they were great in transition. Offensively, they were clicking on all cylinders, no problem. But the threes aren't always going to be falling. So that's where I want the Knicks to maintain their aggressiveness defensively. Tap into OG, tap into Mikal. Jalen Brunson was great in the passing lanes last night. Karl Anthony Towns, some key blocks in this one. When the block nest monster gets into shape, knock on wood for that, get out in transition. So I liked that part of their game, and I really want to see if they can maintain that throughout the course of a season. Because when you look at a team like an OKC, that was a big part of their championship pedigree. Yes, you can point to the brilliance of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the MVP and J-Dub and all those guys that they have offensively, but defensively, the way that they pressure you on defense, turn you over and take those turnovers and convert it into points. I thought that was a very underrated aspect of OKC's game last year. So that'll certainly help. Got to shore up the defense. Now, Mike Brown met with the media yesterday, and it had a couple interesting sound bites that I want to get to, and that also kind of fits into the overall themes of the week. All right, here's Mike Brown, starting with where the Knicks are offensively. Here we go.
And we're still not where we need to be offensively, but guys are starting to understand how to space the floor. They're starting to understand part of spacing the floor is if you cut, how to respace. They're understanding quick decisions, how when to get off the ball, and when you have a really good understanding of those things, you can almost make it's just one read. you make one read and you can make a blind pass because you know, based on our spacing and our spots, somebody's supposed to be there. And, Mikal, he was one of the guys that was here with the young guys early in the summer, so he was getting reps at this, back in August and September. So he's probably a little ahead of the curve in terms of, some of the other guys that may have been injured and missed a chunk of time. And so once we get everybody up to speed, it just won't be Mikal being able to make that read. We have basketball players that can pass, dribble, and shoot, so it should be all of us that should be able to make that read very well.
The bench.
All right, so that was Mike Brown on the offense, and the way he speaks about it, and we had Shaq's, shout out to Shaq's NBA, we'll bring him back on soon. The way he speaks about it, it's going to take time. Now this might sound cliche, we keep saying it over and over again, but it's going to take time. This offense requires chemistry and knowing each other, knowing where every guy is going to be on the court so that you can play fast. Doesn't mean speed necessarily, but to play fast in terms of your thinking time, your thinking speed, and your decision making. I think that's also part of the issue that where Towns is kind of stuck in an in-between. And as you heard Mike Brown say, Mikal's ahead of the curve, and it's showing. Mikal's been able to put in the work. They said he's been a gym rat. Can't get him out of the training facility. So it's obvious. If you're not going to be running set plays, it's going to take time for these guys and the rotations. We're going to get into his comments on the rotations in a minute, but it's going to take time for all of that to come into play here. He doesn't know all these guys. They don't know him. He's going to be utilizing the rotations to see what works. But we got it. This is why we have to give it time. And despite that, they're still exhibiting good signs because of the talent on this team. Which is why I'm still optimistic. Well, not still optimistic, which is why I remain optimistic and not, panicking after the slightest bit of adversity. Shout out to the rhyme animal Chuck D, ladies and gentlemen. He sends us a $10 super chat, number one on the chat leaderboard. Says, let us not be bored. We can beat anybody, but 7-game homestand, lockdown, concentration, effort. Tibbs yelled all game to wake them up. Knicks master Mike is respectful. This squad plays well on the edge. Yeah, man, I do kind of miss the Tibbs chaos. You could hear him on the ambient mic going crazy. But Mike has his way of doing things, so it's all about how they buy in. And that's all I'm here for. Whoever can get us to the promised land. Get on the same page, get us to the promised land. That's it. Hit me up on the KFTV Discord if you guys want to tap in. And let me know what you guys are thinking here. Salute to everybody in the chat. If you guys are on the grind, type in hashtag grind in the chat. And we'll shout you guys out. Busy day, busy week as usual. But a good busy nonetheless. Courtney J, salute. Will Adam in the chat. I see you. Eric L. Beats in the building. Shout out to Eric. Shout out Jason Benjamin says, love seeing Mikal Bridges calling out OG Cat for their defense. Yeah, that was, to me, that was big. Mikal was not having that. So back to Mike Brown. So this is Mike Brown now on the rotations, because that's been noticeable in terms of how he's utilizing different bench players and at what intervals in these games. Here's Mike Brown on the rotations. Here we go. All right, here we go.
46 points. Just how encouraging is that for that
No,
minute?
it's good. Now, it starts with me because I got to help him. With Josh coming back, with Mitch coming back, with, the different things that those guys present in terms of minutes and all that, I didn't help him a ton the last couple of games. I was all over the map with the substitutions. And so it was hard for those guys to get a rhythm because the guy's going in, he's coming out, he's going in, he's coming out. And so, I have to do a better job, and I thought I did tonight, of trying to have a rotation and stick with it while still playing, 9.5, 10 guys. And I have to help them continue to get comfortable in that area because we have guys that can come off the bench and make plays and knock down shots.
Now, as an addendum to that, one of the guys that he spoke on later on in his post-game presser was one Gershon Yabusele. So here's Mike on Yabusele, and we'll talk about how that relates to the rotations comment. Here we go.
No, it's me, and there's I could probably play 10 guys, right? But it's not going to be 10; it's more 9.5. And so there's going to be somebody that has the half, and I got minutes for him in both halves, but not a ton, and he's just got to go out there and give us whatever he can give us. And I just chose nothing that he did. It was just rotation based, and got a little funky because Mitch went out early, and then he came back, and so it was my call. But Gersh has played well. He's got to keep himself ready because he's going to continue to get minutes, and I just got to try to find more if I can. But there's not going to be a lot more for when you start talking 9, 10 guys. There's not going to be a ton for that 9th or 10th guy.
All right, so that was Mike Brown, and I think he gave us a look into what the rotation is going to be looking like, or at least what the combination of players, who's going to be his core. As we've seen, Gershon Yabusele, he's saying all the right things about Yabusele, but the reality is, based on what you're expecting, the contract that they got so far, it's been quite a struggle for him. I think we can all agree there that it's been quite a struggle for Yabusele here in fitting in for the Knicks. Now, again, very early. He's now dealing with a little bit of a knee injury that he suffered against the Miami Heat down in Miami. And also, I think he's also struggling with his role. We got to remember, Gershon Yabusele last year with the Philadelphia 76ers, he averaged, as a reserve, 22 minutes a game. You know what I'm saying? He averaged 22 minutes per game as a reserve. 27 games as a reserve. He started more games. 30 minutes as a starter. So you have time to play through mistakes, right? Philadelphia had no expectations. You had no George. You had no Embiid. So it's your show. Now, because we have so many players, he's not going to be afforded the same luxury here that he did in Philadelphia. So that means he's got to be very efficient with his minutes early to get more later. Simple and plain. You saw him in the first half. You really didn't see him in the second half. Didn't hear from him again. So he's just got to be efficient with the minutes. If you look at the minutes here, 12, 13, 15, 3. Didn't even play against the Milwaukee Bucks, and he gets 3 minutes. No, I'm sorry. 3 against Chi-Town on Halloween, and then 2 minutes. He played 2 minutes last night. So if you Yabusele, you better rip and run, because how you play in those 2 minutes is going to determine what you get in the rest. But I also think it could be, when he says 9.5, that could be more so between him and Shamet, depending on how they match up and how they play. Who they matched up against and how they play. Last night against the Bulls, you can argue you wanted Shamet's speed and athleticism more so than Yabusele's size. Some nights it may be reverse. And if he's playing well, he'll be afforded those minutes. But right now, I think we can logically say that the bench rotation or the bench depth is going to be largely comprised of Deuce, Josh Hart, Jordan Clarkson. That's that right there. And then, do you get Shamet? Do you get Yabusele, who plays more, who's more situational? I think all depends on how they're playing and who they're playing up against. So on one hand, some guys may not be able to play through that. As Mike Brown said, he's been using a lot of different combinations, and that has impacted players in terms of their on-court production. And maybe from a Josh Hart standpoint, maybe he was mental. You guys saw him on the Halloween game against the Bulls, how dejected he was. He played 15 minutes. Then he comes out against the Bulls on Sunday night, gets adequate minutes with the starting lineup, looks much better, looks like the Josh Hart of old to a certain respect. So some guys are going to eat, some guys are not. You're going to have to keep what you kill. And Josh Hart he got 26 minutes in the win over the Bulls on Sunday night. He got 26 minutes compared to the 15 he got on Friday night. So I think by and large, that's the rotation that you're going to be looking at. And, maybe you could even throw Clarkson in that mix where it's like, if you don't have it on certain nights, your minutes are not going to be guaranteed. I think the guys whose minutes will more than likely be guaranteed will be Deuce and Hart to a certain extent. Again, he might be also on that cusp. But with Clarkson, Yabusele, Shamit, I think he put Kolick at the end of that. You got to have it going to keep it going. But again, all interesting stuff, man. I find this stuff very, very interesting. I'm hoping Yabusele can rebound, but his struggles have been noticeable. But again, he got 2 minutes last night. Shout out to Raymond Nobleza. Shout out to Raymond. $5 super chat says the Knicks are adjusting to a new system and coach, but what impressed me the most is that Mike Brown is also adjusting to his players. Absolutely. It's all a dance right now. You got to let him cook. No question, Raymond. Salute to you. Knicks taking on the Wizards tonight, 7:30. You know where to find us, man, after the game. Number one show for the fans, by the fans. Highlights, analysis, caller reactions. We here. Hooper, I see you in the Discord. We're going to get to you. Definitely. We got you, Hooper. Salute. Salute everybody watching on Facebook as well. And speaking of tickets to the game, man, if you guys need last-minute tickets to the game, SeatGeek is the platform for you. The number one rated ticketing app and the official ticketing app of KnicksFanTV. Use our code KFTV for 10% off your tickets. How to use SeatGeek? Very easy. Once you search for the game that you're looking for, they will color code each of the seats and the sections based on your price point. Look for the green dots. Those dots will typically indicate an amazing deal, a great deal, a good deal. And the red dots, those are typically the bad deals, meaning you're not going to get much value for your money. So you want to stay away from those. Very easy. Once again, use our code KFTV for 10% off your tickets. And that is for new customers. So, you can use the code. You just got to use a different email address if you want to use the code again. We also have the code KFTV if you haven't used that as well for $20 off your order. All right, so shout out to our friends at SeatGeek for sponsoring tonight's show. I'm just reading Hooper's comment. He says he's got class, so he's got to talk quick. All right, Hooper, you're on the Discord. Make it good.
Yo, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Let's go.
Yeah, I like your points. I agree. We're a good team. Our defense is good. Just got to find our offense more. Can't have Jalen only scoring 31. Yeah. Got to have more movement than just Jalen.
Yeah, no doubt, man. What class you got coming up, man? You sound like you got your library voice on. You in the library right now? Where you at?
Yeah, I'm going to math class right now.
Okay. All right, well, get your math on, man. We'll talk tonight for post-game, man. But I appreciate you for multitasking, bro.
Yeah. All right. Peace out.
Peace. That's Hooper on the Discord. Look at that, multitasking, man. He says he's at school. He's got school. But he's tapping in with the number one show for the fans by the fans. He's got to get his take in just real quick. Shout out to Hooper, man. Hit those books. All right. Oh, we got to hear from our guy, Anthony, in the building. Let's go to Anthony on the Discord. Anthony, what's good?
Yo, CP, what's up, family? How you doing, bro?
Good, man. How you feeling, bro?
I'm good, man. Thankfully, man. Oh, wow. Look, right when I get on the call, somebody's at my door. They can wait.
No doubt, no doubt.
So real quick. The season's early.
Yeah.
Mike Brown is feeling, the players out, right? There's been some ups and downs, but for me, like, I've always said, it's going to start on the defensive end with us. We need that consistent effort. We need that consistent want to. If we could get that effort defensively like we did last night, bro, I think offensively we'll be more engaged as a team. I think that's the only way we're going to get the most out of us collectively is if we have that consistent effort on the defensive end. I got a question for you. What do you feel about I want to see what Daddy has. I saw so much promise with him in the preseason and in summer league a bit. I want to see what he has to offer. Do you think he'll get an opportunity at some point this year to show what he can do?
Yeah, well, for one, I agree with you wholeheartedly. The defense is my focus for this team all year. Like I said, they have to be at least a little better than that because realistically, they're not going to be the elite. They just don't have the horses to do so. But they still have to play smart and play with good effort and tap in with the wings that they do have. They can still be good enough as long as their offense is on point as well. So it's a tricky balance. On the Dottier thing, look, Mike Brown did say that in training camp. He did say that it's his intention that all of these guys play at some point over the course of the season. So maybe in the case of Dottier, as we just talked about the rotation, seems like it's pretty set in that 9.5 range. Maybe he gets in a situational standpoint, or maybe it's something where they're in the middle of a 5-game West Coast trip, and as part of guys kind of getting some load management or getting some minutes restrictions, maybe he finds a slot in there situationally. But look, I think the development of both him and Diawara are crucial for the Knicks. I want to see those two young guys, two wings, be able to establish just a rotational role, nothing star, nothing like that. Just rotation guys,
Exactly. I totally agree with that, bro. 1,000%. I think Daddy has something with him that I like. DRA too. I feel like he has some athleticism. He has some offensive talent as well. But dude, again, defensively, man, we need that effort consistently on that defensive end. We're going to have those nights where we don't shoot the ball well, but if we could hang our hats on that defensive end of the floor, we'll be in every game, man, because we can score with anybody. It's just those games where we just look terrible and like we're just like it looks like we're just not engaged defensively. Those are usually the nights that we just look like we don't want to be out there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like we're a totally different offensive team when we're engaged defensively.
Yep. So, I mean, look, 24 fast break points. It all comes together, but it's got to start with their effort too.
It has to start with the effort. So, yeah, man, I don't want to hold you up, bro. I appreciate you, CP, taking my call, man. It's a long season, and I'll definitely be calling in. You already know, and I'll be at some of the watch parties as well.
Appreciate you, man. Absolutely. Shout out to Anthony on the Discord. Rate that take on the chat. 1 being trash, 5 being facts. Shout out to Anthony, man. First call of the season. Welcome back to Anthony. And as he mentioned, Pacome Dottier, according to our guy Ian Begley, shout out to our guy Ian Begley, Knicks insider, friend of the program, says the Knicks picked up the rookie scale team option on Pacome Dottier. So at least for the time being, he remains under contract, and we'll see. Somebody in the chat said, "What do you see in the guys right now?" Nothing, but they're on your team, so hopefully, by either their experience or good coaching, you see something where they can at least fill a role in the rotation. That's all. You're not expecting them to turn into all-stars. I think that's not realistic. But hey, can they fill a role at some point? You just never know. You just never know. This is an interesting stat by my guy Schwinney. Shout out to Schwinney. Said Knicks are shooting 48.9% from 2 this season. They're 28th in the league from 2. And remember, I said from 3. They have been knocking down those threes. He says last season they shot 55.8% from 2. They were 8th in the league from 2 last year. So that's interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. How about these? The City Edition jerseys, the Kith joints dropped. Well, they're doing their rollout on Wednesday. I'm trying to work out an interview with Ronnie Feig, so stay tuned for that. We're trying to get Ronnie Feig in studio. Obviously, with the rollout, it's a busy time, so we're trying to finalize right now, working with his people on that one. Hey, I like these City joints. I think I'm going to get these, man. And I might get a Deuce. McBride one, man. You know, I like to have one of those, outside the box jerseys. I might get this Deuce one, man. I think this looks nice. With the NYC patch on there. I'm with it. What do you guys think in the chat, man? Definitely feeling that. Okay, something else that wanted to talk about before we wrap, and this has been a good episode of Knicks Weekly. Make sure you guys tap back in with us on tonight when the Knicks take on the Washington Wizards. So Josh Hart and the finger injury has been very interesting. Remember this. Remember back in the summer when you guys saw that episode with our guy Mark Jones. That's when we first heard about this Josh Hart injury. It was really broken here on KnicksFanTV. And for those that have been tapped in with us through this offseason into the summer, you heard it first here on this platform that his finger was jacked up. Here was Mark Jones on this episode of KFTV live from Las Vegas at the time where he talked about it. Here we go.
Josh Hart last week down in Miami as a home in South Florida. Spends a lot of time there in the summertime. He was working out at Ronnie Taylor's gym down there. I hang out there a lot, and he's more than motivated to come back and put this past season behind them and take it a step further next year. He did tell me that he was going to get his finger fixed. Oh. Because CPE showed it to me, man. It was making... this finger, the ring finger, was making a left turn,
like MJ.
A right turn, and then a left turn again. I was like, man, put that thing away. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, the war wounds. So that was then. That was in July. Shout out to Mark Jones. Does excellent work. Shout out to Mark Jones, friend of the program. That was from July when he told us he saw Josh's finger. And nobody had really thought about it. Like, no one knew about this. So I was shocked to hear it. People were shocked to hear it. But I think the expectation was still that it would have been fixed by the time we got to training camp. Now, the article in The Athletic, let me just minimize this. Shout out to Trilogy. Shout out to Fred Katz. They wrote an article in The Athletic that came out. Now, the timing was very interesting. They dropped it during the game. But came out, and it's about Josh Hart and his finger. They spoke to Hart about the finger injury. He said that Hart suffered the initial injury in May and then underwent surgery to fix it after the season ended in the conference finals. But not long before the start of camp, Hart re-injured it during a scrimmage at the team's practice facility, and with Hart on defense, Mikal Bridges drove to the hoop. Hart reached for the ball and felt an ache. It turned out he would require another surgery. So Hart said the operation would keep him out for 3 months. So instead of getting the surgery done immediately, he's opting to play through it. Doctors say he won't incur much long-term risk. But Hart also said this: it'll probably be a process until I get full feeling back. The hand will be what it is. I'm working on shooting all the time. That'll come along. I'm not getting surgery. All right, so for everybody who every episode get the surgery, I'm not going to get the surgery. Because what they're saying is, number one, there's a 3-month timetable. And also in Stephen Bondi's article in the Post, he mentioned that it wasn't clear what the recovery was going to look like. Meaning it's not guaranteed that as soon as you're done with the surgery, you just rehab, recover, and be back on the court with full feeling. So the surgery is really not a slam dunk. So the Hart thing is very interesting in that, number one, he should be able to play through it, but how impactful will he be is another question. But what we saw against the Bulls was encouraging because it was a game in which wasn't predicated on Josh Hart knocking down threes. He shot 4 threes. He went 1 for 4. But what you saw here was Josh Hart attacking the basket, getting the Knicks out in transition. And one way to keep a non-floor spacer on the floor is through their cutting ability. And with Josh Hart, I thought you saw him making numerous cuts in this game to make himself impactful for this team. 14 points, 9 rebounds for Josh Hart in the win over the Bulls. So, despite the finger injury, he can still get his boards. He can still run out in transition. He can still play make. Can still cut. So there's numerous things he can do to impact the game if he stays aggressive. And he also was aggressive and confident in his shot, even though he went 1 for 4 from 3. So it's going to be interesting to see how he navigates through that all year. And also, as the article points out, how he adjusts to a new role with this team, which I don't necessarily think is going to be all that much of a deal. Shout out to STG Nick last night on post-game show as he talked about, Josh Hart mentioned last year. He's like, I don't know my role. I'm not sure. I'm not this. I'm not that. And then he's out here ripping off triple doubles. So hopefully he'll find his way. But of all people, I would be less concerned about him finding his role than anybody else on this team. But we'll see how he looks defensively. Now, last night he didn't have to get matched up with Ayo Dosunmu, so he didn't get exposed as much as he did on Friday night, Halloween. We'll see what happens tonight against the Wizards and so on and so forth. Knicks will be taking on the Wizards. They will also be taking on the Timberwolves, and they'll be taking on the Nets this upcoming week. What do you guys think in the chat? Leave me your predictions in the chat on the Knicks record. All winnable games. All winnable games and all at home. Now, for the Timberwolves, I think the report came out today that Ant-Man is now cleared for physical activity. Anthony Edwards has been dealing with a hamstring injury. So will he make it back against the Knicks in the Knicks game? I'm not so sure. But either way, with or without him, it's 3 winnable games at home. They take care of business, get back on track. You win these 3 at home, you're 6-3. Narrative starts to change a little bit. Especially you beat the Timberwolves and you beat Julius and those guys. Narrative starts to change a little bit. So we'll see how they fare. Okay, Will Adam, I'm seeing 3-0 in the chat. Okay, Will's on board. He's got his mind right. He's good money. So let's go with it. All right, last call of the day. Let's go to Knicks Fix. Knicks Fix on the Discord.
CP, what up, bro?
Good, man. How you feel, bro?
What's going on, man? Getting ready for the night shift, bro.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, man. So a couple of things. I think the 3 most important things I want to look forward to this week is to see how Josh Hart plays. Like if he continues to keep up that level of energy and that transition game, that's solid for our bench. The second thing is Clarkson has to maintain his consistency. That's the other thing too. He's got to be the main gun off the bench, him and Deuce. But he's the main scorer. That's the second thing. And then the third thing is my third takeaway for the week, man, is Mikal. Like you're saying it. See, I know Alex was talking about it. If we can get Mikal going, man, and if he can become the 1B option instead of JB, then we really cooking, man. Anyway, stay up, man. Let's see what's happening tonight.
Yeah, likewise, man. Always appreciate the call. Always appreciate the insights. I'll rate that call in the chat. 1 being trash, 5 being facts from the Knicks Fix. Yeah, I'm loving how Mikal's looking. I've had confidence all year coming into this year that this is going to be a much stronger year for him. He went through it. Everybody has to go through some sort of initiation here in New York. Some actually. I can't say everybody because you know who really hit the ground running when they came here. Well, a lot of guys actually. JB did, Josh did, and OG did. But other guys, it takes them a little while to get into the flow. Like Julius had his rough patches, and Mikal has. But Mikal seems to be, using last year as a dope bar. Mikal looks great, man. So he's maintaining his all-star level of play. That would be fantastic if my hot take comes through. But there's a long way to go. But so far, I absolutely love what he's doing. All right, so shout out to Mikal Bridges. For sure. And shout out to Josh Hart. Like I said, Knicks taking on the Wizards tonight. You can catch it on MSG. And you can also catch postgame on the number one show for the fans by the fans. KFTV. Shout out to the Rhyme Animal Chuck D. Of course. Okay. What else do we want to do here? Oh, this was Josh Hart on the finger injury. When he met with the media, this was Josh Hart's reaction. Here we go. Hang on, we're going to have to put the volume up. This SNY's volume is just no good. Let's go to Volume Master and get this up here. Here we go.
Some numbness in your hand?
Yeah, I ain't going to talk too much about it, man. So it's just, it is what it is, and it is what it is.
Is it nerve damage, or is it a nerve problem in the finger?
My nerve hasn't fully got back to what it was before, so there is a little bit of tingling, a little bit of numbness in part of my hand, and hopefully at some point that nerve will get back. I guess is also answering your question too. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but right now it's just a process.
Physical. Going through.
All right.
Having some numbness in your hand.
So that was Josh Hart. So he said there's a little numbness going on there. Hey, but I'm trying to bring on an orthopedist on here to talk about it, see what the extent of this damage is, and can he make it through the season? But hey, after last night, looks all right. Last night, we'll see what today brings. But some nerve damage, some sensation, can't get feeling in his hand. That's scary stuff, man. That's scary stuff. Off of a basketball injury, But we wish Josh Hart a speedy recovery for sure. But again, he goes and gets the surgery in the off season. That's a 3-month timetable. He's talking about June, July, August. Who knows? And who knows, right? Because as the previous article stated, it's not clear whether or not the recovery from that is just going to be open and shut. All right, but we wish Josh Hart well, man. Speaking of recovery, man, last thing I want to mention before I wrap, man. Speaking of recovery, as you all know, our home country of Jamaica. That's where my peoples are from. That's where Alex's peoples from. We have a number of Jamaicans watching home and abroad. They just suffered a devastating hurricane there, Hurricane Melissa, and the aftermath has been unreal in certain parts of the island. And so there have been a number of rescue and recovery and rebuilding efforts going on, and this is one that I am taking part of, and this is the Hurricane Melissa Relief by my friends at the Jaja Foundation. What they are looking for are supplies and also cash donations to help with the relief and the recovery. As you see here on the graphic that I have here, some of the supplies that they need: cooking oil, rice, sardines, tuna, canned good, non-perishable items to help those in need. And for those physical goods, I have the drop-off locations listed right here to the right of me here, and they have some in the 5 boroughs. You have the Door, Jamaica, Some of you guys know the Door Restaurant, Jamaica, Queens, Footprints Cafe, Brooklyn, Footprints Cafe Express, Sam's Caribbean Marketplace out here in Long Island. If you guys are nearby Sam's, you can go there and drop off. The Original Dumpling Shop in the Bronx, and in New Jersey, East Orange, New Jersey, Trans-Caribe Express Shippers. You can also Zelle, cash, or text Relief JM to 44321, or you can Zelle, and the email address is info@jahfoundation.org. And you can also donate through the URL, through the QR code that I have right up here on the graphic. So it would mean a lot to us if you guys can donate and help the recovery efforts. It would definitely mean a lot to us. Like I said, this is something that is close to home. And the most important thing, you guys can go to their website, jahfoundation.org. You can go to their website and see all of the previous campaigns and previous things that they've done down there on the island. And one of the things, and look, we'll keep it real. We know that sometimes donating to charities and things of that nature, you can be a little bit hesitant because you don't know where it's going. Well, this is close to my heart and close to me because my mom's also actually one of the leaders of the foundation. So she goes down there every year volunteering, donating, and participating in a lot of philanthropic efforts to help the people down there. So I know exactly where all this is going, and I know exactly what they're doing because I know who's involved. So this is why I'm happy to present this to you guys and ask you guys to donate to help those in need down there on the island. All right. So like I said, you can drop off the physical items to those locations that I have there within the 5 boroughs and New Jersey, or you can Zelle cash to info@jahfoundation.org. Okay. So please definitely appreciate you guys helping out. Like I said, I know the people personally. I'm personally affiliated with the foundation, so you can know and trust that all of this is going to the right place and that the people are going to actually get this stuff. Okay? So we appreciate everybody for your attention on that, man. Appreciate it. It's natural disasters. You just never know sometimes, man. All right. So great show. Salute to everybody once again for tapping in with us. We'll be back tonight, man. Knicks versus Wizards. Let's get 2 in a row and continue on this home stand. Remember that these shows are available in audio podcast format. No reason to miss it. You can catch us on all major podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Salute to the replay gang, of course. Everybody out there on the road, all my drivers out there, my Amazon drivers, delivery drivers, MTA, emergency response, everybody out there on the road, man. Salute to you guys for tapping in with the #1 show for the fans, by the fans. Like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you guys tonight. Knicks versus Wizards post-game live. We out of here, man. Peace.